hear me, Mr. Martin? Okay, Martin. Can you guys hear?
Hi, Miss Daly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me, Dr. Martin? Mr. Perez?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, we can.
Oh.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Here.
Robert Hayes.
Here.
Cynthia Jones. Ron Ortiz. Dr. Guy Archambault.
Present, we have a quorum. Adoption of the agenda, Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Board, good evening, everybody. I recommend that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Is there a motion? So moved. So moved by Board Member Hayes. Is there a second?
Second.
And by Vice President Emily Hunt Daly to approve the agenda as presented. Roll call.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Robert Hayes.
Yes.
Dr. Guy Archambault.
Yes, motion carries. Adoption of minutes, Mr. Pettis, is there a recommendation?
Yes, sir. I recommend that we adopt the minutes of August 16th as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Vice President Hunt Daly.
I will second the motion, but I'm not sure I can vote since I wasn't here.
Well, you should have read
That's
them
correct.
anyway, so.
I would have to abstain.
Abstain. So we do not have a quorum. We don't have, we'll just defer that.
You until the next meeting, sir.
No problem. Recognitions.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, board members, there are no official recognitions, but I would like to take a second just to recognize all the teachers and staff that are engaging our students in after-school activities and athletics and those kind of things, and keeping all of our students engaged in school in all these different ways. Aside from academics, I think it's really important. Just like to acknowledge all of those people out there working hard after hours, before school, weekends. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Well said. Thank you very much. Let's continue. 3 citizens to address the board. There are none. Let's go to 4, presentations, school site, student performance, district safety.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, board, audience, it's always a great pleasure to introduce our schools. And this evening, we have Grants High School, Principal Widener.
Dr. Martin's working. Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Pettis, board members, directors, community members, people that are in virtual space. It's my pleasure tonight to present some of the happenings and beginning of the year things going on at Grants High School. I have a remarkable team here with me tonight that are going to each come up and present some special attributes and parts of things that they're involved in at the school. I want to introduce Ms. Jokay Lamson. She is an instructional coach at Grants High School. Following Ms. Lamson, we'll have a presentation from Ms. Amper. She's a math instructor, going to talk about some after-school math activities and happenings and community events that our math department is working on. Mr. Gonzalez is our broadcasting teacher. He heads up Angry Jack Productions, one of our CTE programs, and is going to talk about the great things that are happening in his program and how they're growing because of some of the wonderful equipment and curriculum that you all have provided as the school board. And finally, we'll end the presentation with Mr. Cabling and a student, Joaquin Longoria. Mr. Cabling was recently awarded a special science award as a science instructor. And so he's going to talk about that recognition. And Joaquin is our president for the MESA program, which stands for Math, Engineering, Science, and Achievement. And so without further ado, I'd like to turn the floor over to Mrs. Lamson and let her come and present some of our demographics.
I was just seeing a picture there. One of the things that I decided to do this last week was to look for some good things that were happening in our school. I've been in several classrooms running PLCs, a few things, so I want to share some of those things as well. And we're missing a picture here, I don't know, there it is. Student engagement, some of the things I've seen in classrooms. Miss Amper is using dry erase boards. I was in her class, the kids are holding their answers up, and she can immediately check and see if they have got understanding of the material. She repeats the activity and eventually does a formal assessment at the end of class. We've got labs going on. We had teachers complimenting teachers, hearing things about those labs and how excited they were to do some of those in the science this last week. Went into Mr. Grouse's classroom. All of his kids have safety equipment. I'm a science teacher and I walked right in there like I own the place, and they made sure that I put safety gear on. So I was pretty impressed by that. PLCs, we have a list here of things that the teachers came up, good things for PLCs last year. Just a few of them. A lot of them talked about how they were able to correspond and talked with their colleagues and get ideas for instructional material and methods, and that was really helpful in their classes. We examined student work, good bonding, exploring different platforms, Nearpod, for example, quizzes, those kind of things. There's a picture in the middle there. I ran into Mrs. Passamonte, sorry. She has an excellent illustration of how students can be successful in math. She did an excellent presentation that day, but you know, failing, getting help, trying again, asking for help, testing, you know, to achieve mastery in the end. That's a great illustration that we can use throughout our class period to, and throughout the year to refer back to it. Okay, where are we at? We're in the try again mode, or do we master it? No, we need to go back. So we missed that illustration, but so that's just a couple of things I wanted to share. Grants High School has about 883 students. There are 102 faculty and staff at GHS. We have 64 subject areas, educators. There are 12 front office staff and attendance monitors, secretaries, and administrators. Some of the teachers bragged on Miss Penny for being very helpful. 15 employees are custodians, security, and groundskeepers. I had like 15 teachers respond and say, custodians are doing an excellent job in our areas. We really appreciate them. Thank you. They bragged on Danny Martinez specifically and others as well. There are 11 instructional assistants and care providers, aides at GHS. Opportunities for students. We have all of our grade classes, different activities, anchor clubs, of course, and Angry Jack Productions, band, bowling, we're still looking for a sponsor there, choir, DECA, drama. The FFA teachers all went up to Farmington. I went with them and helped introduce them to that program. I got 3 very excited instructors to come back and be leaders of that program. I'm very excited about it. I'm not gonna get all these. Mesa National Honor Society, ROTC, I saw teachers compliment the kids using They're wearing their uniforms this last week. They looked very sharp in our school. Of course, our sports. Let's go to the next one. We have different career pathways at Grants High School: agriculture, broadcasting, business, construction, trades, early childhood education and education, engineering, fine arts, health and careers, metal fabrication. Compliments to our welding instructor. He did a really good thing where he brought the students all together and created class rules and got some buy-in. I think that's a fabulous strategy to get them to buy into those rules, especially in a shop type lab environment all the time. So that's my piece. Ms. Amber.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is with great pride and honor to represent Grants High School in today's board meeting. There are many good things that are happening in the mathematics department at Grants High School under new moderatorship under Mr. Gabriel Leopando. There are many good things. Oh, these are pictures from my class. First good thing that I would like, I'm very happy to present to you, is we are still offering after school tutoring this year with Mr. Win, and it will start on September 14th. Second good thing that the mathematics department is going to open this year is the Math Club, Grants High School Math Club. It's the first ever math club, Grants High School, and it will be called the Mathematics Pirates. The Pirates. And it will be headed by our very own geometry teacher, Mrs. Pasamonte, and our algebra teacher, Mr. Josiah Alisasis. And third good thing, and it's very big this coming December, is the first annual GHS Inter-School Mathematics Competition, and it will be open to all Grand Cibola middle schools and high school students. Our elimination round and final round will be on December 3rd, 2022. Further details will be sent out, will be announced later. And one of our, there are many goals. One of the goals that we are aiming is to prepare our kids for future in-state and out-of-state competitions. Second is to support and encourage our kids to strive harder and aim higher goals. Third is to boost our kids' self-esteem and confidence. And number 4, develop competitive spirits amongst our kids. We will award our kids with trophies for the first prize, medals for the top 3 teams, and certificate of participation for all students who will participate in this competition. And lastly, before I give the floor to my colleague, I would like to share to you a glimpse of what is going on in an algebra freshman classroom.
Just wait, it's okay. Work on it.
Just thinking about
It's in the slideshow.
There's no link there.
Then another click.
Thank you.
My turn? Okay. Hi, everybody. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I just want to say hello again and to not remind you, but This is now my 15th, 16th year with the district. I did a stint beginning in 2002, and I came back after running the public library for a few years, and I was at the middle school. I won't ever do that again, but well,
Too much.
love those middle schoolers, but high school's where I belong. At any rate, I only bring it up is because I can't say enough about how this is an unprecedented time, in my opinion, as far as the synergy, it's a good word to use, between the central office, administrators, and teachers. Right now, what I'm seeing, and I've been in this district for many years, and this is a time of unprecedented synergy between us. And I think everyone here, including us here, deserve the right to say that we're all have a part in this. And so I'm just so, I wake up in the morning happy to come to work, ecstatic to go to work. And so I thank you all for that, because you all fit into that. Mr. Widener is trying his best to give us what we need and what we want. For my particular program that Mr. Griner helps out with, it is the Angry Jack Productions Group, which is to say, we during the COVID years, we broadcast sports live for people that couldn't make it to the gyms. Currently, just a quick glimpse, and there's a video coming up that maybe we'll play or not. Just so you understand the structure too, and this is another reason I talk about sort of the unprecedented times we're in. We now have enough broadcasting students that are trained enough that we have actually two groups of kids that one day, one group is responsible for writing the script and for speaking the parts and filming them and editing the show so that they're ready to go for the next day. The next day, the next group comes in, and so on and so forth. So we literally have no gaps in those shows. That's why you can turn on the YouTube page and see those shows every day. I'm very proud of that, if only that I just don't see any other high school programs in the state doing that. And feel free to fact check me on that, but Centennial High School, considered the best possibly media group in the state, they're not doing that. And we're learning a lot still. There are some bugs and some things in the works that we're getting better at, but the bottom line is the kids 3-4 weeks in are used to now the routine. Every day is something to do to get that show ready. And so if you could just picture for a minute the communication that has to go on, the collaboration that has to be done, just the simple connecting of equipment, all those things are just, it's so powerful to watch it happen. And don't get me wrong, I'm actually at the point where I can kind of just sit and watch it all happen. And that to me, it doesn't mean that I don't want to work. I have other youngsters that I'm training for the next go around, but it's just such an amazing thing. I can't say enough about how amazing it is to sit back and watch the kids. They already know what to do. They show up for class, and let's get across the street, let's do this, and it just happens by the beauty of divination or whatever have you. It's happening. I'm just so happy and proud of the program. It's not because of me, it's because of kids, and I'll end it with this. The district has seen fit to not only work on a district learning plan for my program, which is already becoming to be very valuable, but the district has also saw it fit to pour more resources into the program. And so what you should know is that as of now, we probably have a Ford truck, 2012, maybe an extra cab just for extra things. We're about to be driving a Ferrari. And so if you could just imagine the power that we're already seeing when kids walk into that Mac lab and just the screens themselves, it's a beautiful thing to see. So you should know that we're driving a Ford truck right now and we're still doing what we do. When we have that Ferrari, we're gonna be racing to the finish line. And I can't wait, and I can't thank everyone enough. I will leave you with saying really that it's not just so much about here's some equipment and go have fun with it. These are industry ready equipment. If a student leaves Grants High School, maybe not today, but at the end of the year, they will have practiced and worked on industry standard equipment and leave here, work in television studios, work at radio stations, work in newspapers. And so it's just such an exciting time, and I'm just having the time of my life right now, and I can't thank you all enough. There is a video that looks like it's not gonna play. If you do have a chance, the YouTube page is Angry Jack Productions, and when you do go there, you'll see everything we've been able to do this year and even last year for that matter too. So cannot forget Mr. Griner and his groups though, and his students, and really I don't really have anything else to say except thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them.
So to the Honorable President and board officials, Superintendent Max Perez, district directors, school heads, GCS community, and for those who are watching or joining us online, good evening. So I'm going to introduce myself again. So I'm Mr. Bernard Cabling. So a proud Filipino teacher and science educator for 12 years, armed with a master's degree in teaching and currently taking Doctors of Philosophy in Science, specializing in science education. So I'm currently working at Grants High School as a biology teacher and a MESA advisor. So as an educator, it's my responsibility to use my knowledge and experiences to sharpen the minds of the young generations and deliver instructions that results in learning to achieve quality education. So with that being said, so I'm gonna be sharing some of my best practices as a classroom science teacher here at GCCS, particularly at Grants High School, headed by my Principal Lane Wider. So research has shown that students who engage in well-designed laboratory experiences develop problem-solving and critical thinking skills, as well as gaining exposure to reactions, materials, and equipment in lab setting. That's why I believe that there is no equivalent substitute for hands-on activities where materials and equipment are used safely and students' experiences are guided. So that's why I'm giving a lot of laboratory experiments to my students. And with that, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to all of you for providing an exceptional biology laboratory in my classroom, as well as I just want to say thank you as well to Ms. Reina Sanchez for her initiative to, of course, to purchase my request last year in my bio lab. So those materials, I could say that I can certainly use those materials in facilitating learning, as well as in doing some bio experiments and demonstrations. I can definitely say that my students are enjoying the experiments through hands-on activities while they are wearing these lab coats. So you know what, I have those lab coats, and when my students are using those codes, so they feel like they're working on the actual field. So that, aside from teaching the content of the lesson, it's important for me as a teacher to let them feel that they're working on the actual field. So maybe some of them may be working on the medicine field or the science field someday. So in my daily routine, so I have my own structured way on presenting the lessons to my students. So aside from the usual, like taking the attendance, giving them, taking the attendance, greeting them and welcoming them in my class. So I actually started my class by giving them fun and engaging bell ringer activities, okay, in a form of brain teasers, riddles, trivia, and puzzles that sets the learning atmosphere, and my students really enjoy that. So I also have them do a board work as a form of review of a previous lesson. So as you can see here, they have their own, here on the pictures, they have their own lap boards, markers, and erasers that they can use on the Springboard activity, as well as when I'm throwing some questions in the middle of classroom lecture discussion. So I'm also using different teaching and learning strategies and techniques for my students to have them learn by their own, through their peers, and collaborate with each other. Then aside from that, they're also giving ample time or like attention to those students with IEPs and our ESS learners. So in my 4th year of teaching here in the district, so I noticed that my students really love working on labs, be it a dry lab or wet labs. So that's why I'm giving them, just like what I've said, giving them more labs. So, and that's experiential learning. So students could learn a lot by experiencing something in school. That's why I'm giving them more activities like that. So I'm pretty sure that this year my students will learn a lot, learn from the science of life through microscopy, DNA extractions, blood typing, dissections, karyotyping, and many more. So as MESA advisor, here with me is my MESA president, Joaquin Longoria. He will explain all about MESA later. So, but before I speak about or talk about the MESA club, so I have here some science news magazines. I want you to look at this real quick. All right, because for years we've been receiving this magazine and students are using it. So I actually incorporate this in my class. Students could look some articles in there that we can find in the book. So we could feed them some information that's not printed on the book. So with that being said, so I was, how can I say this? So I just want to share this because this is one of my achievements. I might say this is one of my achievements. So I received a recognition from the Society of Science. So I was selected as one of the 7 science learning ambassadors across the country. Trying to think of it, 7. So I'm glad. So I'm very proud because I work here in our district and I'm proud to be a pirate. So I'm invited to attend a conference, a 3-day conference in Washington, D.C. by the end of this month, and it's all expenses paid. So I'm gonna attend, I'm not gonna attend as a delegate, but a mentor or facilitator. And I'm glad that I'm representing our district as well as New Mexico in that conference. So right now, so Joaquin will explain to you what MESA is all about.
Hello everyone, I'm Joaquin Longoria, president of Grants High School, MESA Club. I'm here today to talk to you about the organization MESA, which stands for Mathematics, Engineering, Science, and Achievement. MESA is a pre-college program that prepares students for college, careers in mathematics, engineers, and science or technically related fields. In Mexico, MESA also offers a senior loyalty award for graduating high school seniors who enroll in college in the fall they graduate from high school. This award, which can be as much as $1,000 per student, is based on the students' MESA participation during middle school and high school, and their academic grades and standardized test scores. MESA has a few events and activities planned through the 2022 through 2023 school year. For example, 10 members of the MESA Club will participate in the 2022 New Mexico Governor STEM State Challenge. The challenge question is, imagine New Mexico as a state known for sustainable and green manufacturing. What innovations or developments can be produced to foster our schools, jobs, and communities? I am one of the students who will be a part of the group. Right now, we are looking into possible projects to go through with the competition. We are already registered for the competition, so we are ready. The deadline for the proposals for the competition will be November 18th of 2022, and the judge will be November 30th of 2022. We'll be going on field trips and other activities throughout this school year. 30 students are also a part of the club. Many more are showing interest as well into the club as well. For now, MESA is asking for your support as a club, since it is a new club that barely got recognized this year. So we're just asking for your support throughout this year, just help us push forward with this program. Thank you again.
So on the last slide, so here I come again. So this is our proposed district-wide Science Festival of Talent. So I know that the district, the students are really good in sports and academics. So we wanted to propose this, so we're working on the proposal. So maybe by the end of this month, so we're gonna send to Patty Black and Torena the proposal for this. So we have the GCCS Science Week 2022-23. Then we also have a Science Spelling Bee, a Science Experiment Demonstrations, a Rube Goldberg Music and Machine Motion Competition, Insta Photo Science Contest, Poster Making Contest, Artistic Invention, Environmental Jingle Making Contest for our elementary and middle schoolers. So GCCS Science Top Model, so using recycled materials, and we have slogan making contest and science workshops. So these are all our proposed activities. So with your help, of course, we could do this this year. So thank you so much for listening. Again, I'm Mr. Bernard Kibling, biology teacher and the MESA advisor. Thank you. Have a great day.
That concludes our presentation. If you guys have any questions, I will make sure that you guys get the slideshow so you can see those videos. They're pretty wonderful.
Board members, comments, questions?
I just have a quick comment, just on all the comments that you all made tonight. I was impressed that you always include the students first. And that's very important to us and to the families out there. And I really appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Emily, the Sun Data?
I'm sorry, no comments. I'm just pleased that they're starting the program again. Keep up the good work.
She said she's pleased that they're doing some programs again.
Excellent. I'm excited. I'm enthused because you demonstrate that enthusiasm. Excellent. Congratulations on your honor. We need to know more about that. So if you put that on the website someplace, so we'll know that we have outstanding faculty in the district who are capable of demonstrating to the nation those things that we as individuals and as a district, we have good people here, strong people, exciting people. And this has really been a good beginning for this district. We certainly appreciate the quality that we see demonstrated today by staff and students. We welcome more and more of this kind of presentation. Mr. Pettis.
Yes, thank you. Again, thank you, President, Mr. President of the MESA program. Appreciate you. Well said. I like what you're saying and what you're doing. Very important for you and for all the people that you're working with. I too appreciate the energy, the high quality staff that we have here, and leadership. Mr. Widener, you're putting together a good team. You can feel the energy. Keep it going. We're going to make some good things happen. Appreciate it.
Without further ado, again, thank you very much. And I want to see your math class. So if there's any chance of getting it online, we'd probably go to the website, right? Something, we'll find out. Okay, thank you. Mr. Pettis, let's go on to B, student performance data.
Mr. President, board, everyone out here, we have an update on our student performance data. Serena Sanchez.
Mr. President, board members, Mr. Pettis, we recently got our summative assessment scores for the district. And so before we go over those scores, I kind of wanted to give a brief overview of what we use for student performance data. Go ahead and go to the next one. So just a reminder that we have summative assessments that we use for end of year, end of quarter assessments. And those ones are our GCCS quarterly assessments that'll be on Synergy this year. Those ones test our students by standard for what the teachers were responsible for teaching during that quarter. And so we have those assessments every quarter for math and ELA. And as soon as we have our district learning plans written for science and social studies, then we'll start including those. And as our CTE teachers get used to their DLPs, we'll start including some assessments for our CTE teachers quarterly as well. We have our IMASA, which is the interim measures of student success and achievement. And that one is done 3 times a year. And so that's an interim assessment at beginning, middle, and end of the year. And so we've started that one already at the beginning of this year. And so we'll have some baselines with that one at the beginning of the year from where our students are right now. And then we'll move on to middle and end of the year. That one assesses college readiness, college and career readiness and content standards in reading, in writing, and language, and in math. And it's designed to measure progress toward grade level proficiencies. So we get grade level proficiencies 3 times a year for that one. The next one that we have is another interim in some ways because it's our iStation. And so iStation is mandatory for kinder first and second math and reading since we are K-5 plus schools. And so we do that one at the beginning of the year, and that one gives us grade level baselines for all of our students. That one measures where our students are in reading and in math as a baseline at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. The iStation, though, tests our students at the beginning of every month. And so sometimes our students don't even know that they're taking this assessment because it looks just like their practice. When they get on the first time during that month, there's something that the teacher can see that says ISIP in progress at the bottom of the screen. But until the students are a little bit older, they don't really understand what they're doing except for practicing, and then we're still assessing them. The window for our IMASA beginning of the year will close on October 14th. So by then, probably before then, we'll have all of our students in and the IMASA data comes back like that. And so we shortly thereafter in October, we should have some beginning of year assessments for you. We also screen all of our students within the first 40 days with a dyslexia screener for first graders. And so that kind of tells us if we know that there's some trouble, or it tells us that our students are a little bit behind and we need to get them caught up quickly. And so that one helps us as well. Go to the next slide. Oh, there you are. Then we have some other data that we use every day. So this includes our daily teacher observations. Our teachers are taking data whether they know it or not and whether we know it or not every single day in their classrooms. Our principals, our instructional coaches, and everyone else is in those classrooms doing observations as well. We also have examining student work. So within our PLC meetings that our instructional coaches have, they have examining student work where the teacher brings a set of student work and their colleagues are the ones that say this is proficient, this is below proficient, this is above proficient, and they separate them out. Then they talk about what the expectations of the teachers were, what the lesson was, and then they have really good, hard conversations. Some of our principals that have been in these meetings and some of our teachers that have been in these meetings can tell you it's not an easy thing to go through with your colleagues all the time, but it's necessary for growth. And so we've seen a lot of growth in teachers and in our students from examining student work. And then, as I said, PLC discussions. Those discussions have been really rich discussions about standards, about data, about how you can combine standards, what our professional learning has taught us, what our DLPs are showing us, how we can follow our district learning plan better, and how we can help each other. We establish baselines. So we have key performance indicators, and all of these are key performance indicators that I just mentioned, and all of them have data attached to them. And I know that most of the time at board meetings, we're district level or maybe school level, but I want you to know that in our PLC meetings and as teachers, they go all the way down and drill all the way down to an item analysis with students. And so sometimes we might be looking at schools and grade levels. Sometimes we might go down to class sections and students. Sometimes we might drill down to subpopulations, sometimes we might have a specific item analysis that we have that we're looking for, specific questions that really stumped our kids and what we can do to help our teachers with those. And so those key performance indicators there are all of those things that I mentioned before. We drill down on all of those things as well. So there's a lot of data talk at our schools, and there's a lot of drilling down, even though we don't drill that far down in our meetings here. So this slide is just a reminder of where we've been in the last few years so that you understand why we're pulling data from certain years. So in 2019, we still had the park, and that's when our students took the last assessment as a normal assessment that we knew it until this past year. In 2020, we moved over to MSSA and we had COVID. All of our assessments were canceled. So that was a state decision to cancel our assessments at that time. Then in 2021, we had an opt-in. So parents could opt their students in during that year. And we had 17 total for the district. So it's not even enough per grade level to report on. So we don't have any data that we could pull from that's reliable. And then in 2022, this past spring, our students took the assessment as scheduled. And so in the next couple of slides, you're gonna see us comparing 2019 to 2022, and that's the reason why. So the first one that we have here, this is our ELA comparison, and this is how we're gonna make some baselines. And so you see grades 3 through 8 here. You can see what the park in 2019 scores were in the first column, or in green, I believe. And then in the dark orange, you can see what the NMASA from last year was, from that last year. And so throughout COVID and throughout the last few years, when we get on meetings with the PED or when we get on meetings with other groups, there's talk of learning loss. There's talk of this huge dive that everybody's gonna take. And right off the bat, Mr. Pettis and the executive leadership team decided we're going with what we have. We're not gonna dwell on learning loss. We're not even gonna mention it anymore. We're just gonna move forward. We're moving forward with what we have, knowing that our students just went through the biggest thing they're probably ever gonna go through in their K-12 education. And we did just that. We moved forward. Our teachers moved forward. Our instructional coaches moved forward, and our principals moved forward. And so we really did just that. And if you look at these numbers, I know everybody expected to see huge dives in our numbers. And third grade stayed right out the same for reading. In fourth grade, we went up quite a bit in reading. Fifth grade went up, sixth grade stayed the same, and our seventh and eighth grade also went up. Now, these aren't the numbers, of course, that we want yet, but we do see some increases here, which we're proud of. So then on the next slide, you'll see that we have some new baselines, and I tied this one to the strategic plan. So if you read in the strategic plan, it does say that for our desired outcomes, our next desired outcome for ELA, no matter what the grade level, is going to be 37%. And so looking at the numbers that we had from 2022, some of those are a little stretch and some of those are a big stretch that we're going to have to make up in a short time. But I think that we're on the right track to do just that. Go down to math. Our math comparisons, you can see that a couple of them are third and fourth grade. Those are our hot spots. They've already been identified as of last year. And we knew that these are the kiddos that are missing. These were the ones that were kindergarten and first grade during the pandemic. So we have to think that some of these kids had never had, until last year, they had never had a normal classroom experience. They didn't get the normal experience of counting blocks or counting teddy bears or counting things like that unless their teachers made them and sent them home with them. It was a different experience. And so we did see a decline in third and fourth grade math, but you can see the increase in fifth and sixth grade, and you can see that seventh grade had an increase and eighth grade stayed right at the same. And so we know that this is an area that we need to work on, and we've already identified that and we're moving forward with it. And then here's our baselines for math, and in the strategic plan for 2023, strategic plan says 36% is our new baseline that we need to reach. So like I said in the last one, this is a stretch for a lot of them, but the teachers know and they have their work cut out for them, for sure. Our instructional coaches and our principals are right on top of it as well. Science is kind of hard to compare. Science, back when science was tested in 4th and 7th grade, and then it moved to 5th and 8th grade. So I put those up there still to where we can see that we have some comparing to do, but 11th grade science is the one that I wanted to bring your attention to. We had for 11th grade science a 14 to a 25% increase, which is big. And 11th graders anyway are at that point where they're like, I'm not taking another test, I don't want another test, and they did great on the science test, and this is the one that we compare. And so, like I said before, this isn't exactly where we want to be, but we're moving forward in science. I think you can hear from our science teachers just at Grants High School how much we've put into science and how much into STEM and to STEAM. And so with the camps that we've had, with our extended learning time being geared towards science, we've really pushed in this direction. And so if you can go down a little bit, our science is 37% for our new baseline for science, and that's on our strategic plan as well. We did some subpopulation comparison by grade level, and so this is 3rd grade. So you can see that the lines in blue are GCCS, the lines in orange are the state. So the first line here is for all, and so it's GCCS, all subgroups versus the state. And then you can go to American Indian, Caucasian, and Hispanic respectively on both charts. Dr. Martin and I looked at these for a couple of days trying to find some trend lines, and they're just kind of all over. There's not really a trend with any of them. Some grade levels go up and some grade levels go down. And we look at these, like I said, these are drilled down to at the site level as well. And we're not just looking at these subgroups, but we're looking at actual students, student situations, counseling situations, SEL situations. A lot of other factors play into this, not just the ones that we can see on paper. Go down. Yeah, and these are just for your reference mostly, because this is 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. Like I said, Dr. Martin and I looked at these looking for some trends and really couldn't find some trends here. We can see some similarities from grade level to grade level, but not necessarily something that goes all the way across in one group or another. And then if you go to the second to the last slide, Dr. Martin, because these ones just go from class to class, and so.
Mr. President, may I ask a question of Ms. Sal?
Just a second, hold on. And what else are you gonna present?
There's just 2 more slides.
2 more slides.
So
Okay.
this one shows our Native American student performance as compared to the state average. And so American Indian is the one that's in blue, and then the state average is in orange in this one. And so you can see some areas, GCCS is higher in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in the ALA comparison, and then they went down in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade on this side, it's not the same. It's on math. And so, like I said, there's not really a whole lot of trend lines here. We did see, the one thing that we did come out with is that GCCS as a whole is a little bit lower in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade than the state was. And so we're always looking for more to do and more help to give to our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then I just wanted to close with this one. This is a line that we pulled from 2015 data. That's as far back as we had it. And so this is 2015 all the way 2019 to 2022, there's a gap there, but you can see that we've been trending upward, and you can see the big trend from 2019 to 2022. And this is district averages in ELA and math. And so this one kind of sums up that we are on a trajectory for higher scores, and that's where we intend to keep going.
Any thoughts before I open it to the board? Board members, any comments or questions?
I did have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you're getting this data from the Illuminate?
No, ma'am, this is
Um,
the NAMASA. This is the summative data.
Demasta, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is your opinion as far as, in some places, we were higher than the state, and in other places we were quite lower. So how do you personally, as an educator, think about that, or what's your analysis of it?
So it's really hard for me as an educator to say that this whole group did this because of this. And that's why I encourage our instructional coaches when they're talking to, and our principals as they're talking about data to their teams, is to look all the way down to the class level and then to the student level. And so once you get down to the student level, that's when you understand why. You know, you know how it is as an educator too. Sometimes you have a class that is on it and they're going to do everything that you ask them to do, and they're going to succeed. And then some years you have another class that's just not. Sometimes these students, these 3rd and 4th grade students coming up, they've experienced something that was a big disruption, and we've got to adjust there. And so that's what we're doing there. It trends. Like we were really looking for some solid trends and couldn't find anything. If we find solid trends like we were looking for, then I would say, well, there's a gap in something that we're doing as teachers, or there's a gap in something that we're doing as a district, but we haven't found those common trends.
I'd like to just-
Were you able to pin? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I would just, Mr. President, I'd just like to add that we have to rely and depend on, and rightly so, passing on the more minute data to the school sites and to the classrooms and to the teachers. They'll analyze it at a much more detailed perspective. So if you look at the big picture, we're really at the beginning stages of analyzing all of this. Right now, what we've shown shows you the general trends and pockets of success and areas that we need to work on. But in the next few weeks, I assure you that the instructional coaches and the teachers and the principals will be delving into what actually happened with the student-to-student piece of this.
Any other comments?
Reina, were you able to pinpoint or match it to the times when the schools went virtual to hybrid and back to virtual? Do you think that had an impact on the percentages?
I'm sure it had an impact on percentages, but we haven't pinpointed it back that far. We can, because we know when we were virtual and we know what our district learning plan says, and that's where we were at this time. And so, like I said, when we get back down to the item analysis, all the way down to that level where we're looking at question number 32 on the 3rd grade test, and this is when we taught it, yep, we were virtual then we can kind of come up with some of those. But I know Mr. Pettis always comes back, he's like, you know how to do this, you did it with attendance. So when I was a principal and I was dealing with attendance, I had charts on my office wall with student names of these are the ones that are on a hot spot. And that's what I'm expecting my teachers to do in folders is these are the students that I know struggled with this, and this. And so when we're going over this in the district learning plan, this is what I expect for them is to have extra attention. So intervention is just like that. It's by student. We can't even do groups anymore with intervention because it's so specific to each and every student. And that's what we're really focusing on. So surprise to our instructional coaches, that's what we're doing on Friday.
May I make a couple of
Thank you.
comments?
Thank you, ma'am.
When we do educational analysis of data, we must begin with a question. It's a research question. And that's what you need to do. If I were to look at that bar graph, that line graph, I would ask myself, what is the question that is to be answered by that line graph? And I should be able to read that line graph and get the answer to that question. Okay? If the data cannot answer that question, then it's probably, we probably have to look at other data. So when I look at that one, and I ask myself, what is this a valid comparison that is easily done, but probably incorrect? Is this a valid presentation of information that I can do something with? I used to always say, if you present data, you must be able to do something with that. So if you're looking at that, it's like in biology, research. Does that data tell me something that I can work with? What she's doing with the teachers is the data. It's the data represented by students and their week-to-week performance that's much more valid than this. I do not give much credence to state's analysis of data that we've been hearing in the newspaper, because they're comparing a range of 89 school districts and their students from all the corners of this state. And it's really difficult for us, for the layperson, to figure out what does this all mean. So I think we must do what you're saying. Start at the most critical, valid, reliable data, and that's student performance in the classroom, in the school, and build upwards. That tells us, because we as board want to know how that one child is doing from year to year. That's what we're here for, is to say that you will look at the data on an ongoing basis, on all the standards they're supposed to learn, all the English and math and science that you present to every week. Did they do well? How well did they do? Can that information filter up to us so we know that we are succeeding? And it's their data, it's that student's individual data that's going to make a difference, and the teacher's analysis of that. So I've always been leery of statewide aggregation of data because it lumps a lot of different people, a lot of different schools together. Los Alamos, their scores are gonna be way up there. And I've seen some of the scores from the other school districts. They're gonna try to figure out how to explain this to their people. I don't want us to do is to rely on the schools and the teachers to make the analysis, and then you build the analysis comparisons upwards in terms of the specific standards performance using Illuminate and, Synergy, excuse me, so that we have a better understanding of it. Because I don't know how I would explain this to the parents. I don't know how I would explain this to large groups. And I think that's one of the difficulties that state and districts will have, is how to explain this. You had park data and then NUMASA. They don't match. And there's going to be a tendency to do that, to compare two different things, apples and oranges, so to speak. And I'm interested in, only to the extent that I can count on you guys to really look at the most valid data that is present, and that's the data that is building from the schools, from the Synergy data, and our own data, and look at it in that sense. So you can do growth comparisons of an individual. In other words, how did this child do this year as compared to last year? That's important for us to know. That's what the parent wants to know. They want to know if their child has been improving. And then we look at all the kids and how many of those kids have improved. So I think that your information was extremely important because you told us that you were trying to figure out how do we analyze this? And that was absolutely correct for you to do. How do we analyze this? Where do we get meaning from this? What's the most important way for us to analyze data? And you guys said it, it's going to be those guys. You're going to rely on what they do on a week to week, month to month, quarter by quarter, what they generate. And we'll just see how this plays out. You know, and I would encourage you to help the principals to understand how best to explain this to their constituents, to their parents, and say that we are in the mix with all the other school districts in the state. As we heard, a lot of the school districts are having the same effect of having to recover from COVID, 2 years in COVID. But we seem to be much more organized instructionally and also much more organized in terms of how we collect data and analyze that than maybe some others. And I'm looking forward for us to really come up with some powerful reports on how successful our teachers have been in the months to come. But thank you. This is really well presented, though. Mr. Pettis.
No, you bring up an important point. And we look at data at all levels as was explained. This, you know, of course, you know, we analyze the more, as I said, more minute data at the school level and so on. But I'd just like to make a mention of why we do the trend lines over the last few years and things like that. I think there's a difference between, well, part of it's like, if you look at it in terms of diagnosis and healing versus an autopsy. This data here is non-actionable. It's already happened. You can't do much about it.
Yes.
The data that we use the actionable data that we do use at the school sites every week, that the instructional coaches and teachers utilize, that is actionable data. That's the data that we utilize to make improvements. Okay. I just like to make a mention that sometimes we do this only because it's interesting for us to know, like you mentioned, Mr. President, like to know that we're in the pack. We also like to know how we are next to our neighboring districts and how we compare to the rest of the state. So, thank you.
Thank you, staff, for putting together an excellent presentation. I've not seen it as this. It gets even more polished as the year goes on, because we're beginning to understand how to look at the data and present things and ask the questions. Okay, well done. District safety and security.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board. As we all know, that district security, safety is on the minds of many people statewide, nationally, and we are included. So we've been very intentional in doing a lot of different things with our district safety and security team. I'd like to introduce those members who are here this evening. If y'all would, why we come up and we'll do this as a team. You all get a gold star because tonight the team is of about 16 people, and we have a few that were able to come out this evening. Dr. Martin, you're part of this.
Is there an associate back there in his uniform who can sit with us?
So I zoomed over here. Good evening, Mr. Board President, members of the board. I zoomed over here from my son's practice. I'm his football coach. So
Absolutely.
I made it on time.
You did.
So Reyes Jaramillo, principal of Los Alamitos Middle School, and I'm on the district security and safety team.
Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Coles, interim principal at Early College and the coordinator of early childhood. and part of the district security and safety team.
I am Jerry Nodal, and I'm the transportation coordinator for the district and part of the safety team.
I'm Delton Martin. I'm the Director for Student Support Services and part of the district safety and security team.
So I'm the lead presenter on this, so I don't know if you want me to stand up there or talk from here. I'll just go through and please, I'll call you up if you all would come and help. So GCS District Safety and Security Team, just want to give the board an update on some of the things that are happening. A lot happening in the last few weeks and over the summer. The new team, as you see the names in the prior slide. We have a well-rounded group from different walks of the district, principals, including principals, directors, other staff, key staff. Dr. Martin. This team has weekly meetings. These weekly meetings we've been having at different school sites. I think we're about our 5th or 6th school right now. And at each of these school sites, we're walking through as a team. Our entire team is there. Does somebody want to share part of that? Volunteer?
Even adults are.
I get voluntold by schools. So each week we conduct meetings at different sites. So I believe the last one we were at Mesa, Mount Taylor. And what we do there is we conduct our meeting first, maybe 15 minutes of business of what we gotta get done. And then the next part of the meeting lasting about an hour, we walk through with the site principal and we're looking at different security threats, different areas that need focused on. So we identify like cameras that may be not working or doors that aren't shutting properly and just different areas that we get all of our team in there and we get an extra eye on what we can see and kind of give input on to that principal as we can do this or maybe we need to, as a district team to maybe allocate some money for different areas as well. So we've been doing this since the first week of school. So we have been through many school sites and it's nice to get to see all the other school sites. And as a principal being on the committee, I get to see other sites and see how they do things, and then I can bring it back to my school as well. So, weekly meetings are going well.
Yeah, if I may add something to Mr. Jackie Sanchez actually put up a Google sheet that we use to track every observation that we made for each school site. So any issue that we recognize, we actually put in a Google sheet, and that is our tracking tool for us to track whether some of the issues that we've actually identified have been addressed and all that. So each of us make sure that we actually input all of our observations in that Google sheet.
Increase in the number of security guards, so we've implemented a district security lead position for the district. We now have at Grants High School 4 guards, and we have at Laguna Acoma 1 guard, and we're asking the tribe for an SRO there. Locally, we haven't been able to acquire any SROs, so we are in a different track that I'll explain in another couple of the slides. We also have 2 guards at Los Alamitos Middle School. And those of you who've been around for about the last 3 or 4 years, you know that we've come a long way. We've come from 1 guard at the high school to several guards at these different schools. We had SROs, but we were no longer able to retain them because of lack of staffing with the city and the county. Jury.
So for we're ordering another vehicle for security. It'll be identical to the Bronco that we already have. We're also going to equip those vehicles with bicycles and bicycle racks, and then the security teams will be trained on how to use those. And we also ordered or are going to order standard vests for all the security guards. They will have high-grade protective shields. And in addition, we are also looking into purchasing a side-by-side vehicle for both Laguna Acoma High School and Grants High School. So I guess we're looking at purchasing two. And the schools, we've ordered additional two-way radios for all the sites. So they will have all the radios and means of communication that they need. And then we're also looking at putting in lock boxes and additional equipment for firearm safety.
Plan for armed security, so this could be a controversial topic, but it's no different than having our SROs on campus with firearms. Right now, we don't have any firearms on campuses. We're working diligently to make sure that we do very soon. Right now, we currently have 2 guards on staff that are both level 3 qualified to carry a firearm. We want to add to that and build up. Of course, we won't move forward with this until we get all the approvals by the board and the PED and our insurance providers. But we're very intentionally working to seeing that we have a few armed people out in the field along at our campuses to protect our students and staff. We plan to train either one more of our internal guards or recruit a level 3 person that's already trained in the very immediate future. Because right now our first benchmark is to get to 3 armed guards, and then of course we can move on from there. And we're currently researching and investigating the process, the protocols, the legalities of having those firearms as a school district at the schools. I originally thought that it was gonna be an act of Congress to do this, and it'd be very controversial, but finding that it's actually being encouraged or at least supported by some of the large part of the state officials. I've even heard that there's a grant that's available that I'm looking for that provides some startup funding and training money for each of the guards. See, is someone gonna volunteer for this?
This is me again. So school site drills and response protocols. As a principal, we've been told we need to have our plans in place, we need to have them set. So it's with 100% certainty that all schools have plans in place for different events that may occur. We are still doing our weekly evacuation drills, that's the weekly fire drills, that's protocol by state. And then we are uniform across the district on our 3 different codes, not codes, 3 different wording for our drills. Shelter in place, evacuate, and lockdown. Simple words so that we don't have to worry about, is it a code red or a code blue or whatever it is, it's lockdown, and all of our staff knows what lockdown is. The drills have been, the drills are being recorded and reported. And I can speak for my school, but we made sure that every room had the drills in place. Even if they had one, we printed one and gave them another one. We also, at our school, make sure that our subs, when they walk in the building, even though they've been trained, when they walk in our building, we give them a folder that shows us all of our drills as well. So as school sites, we are doing our best to anticipate for something bad happening, and we'll be ready for it with our responses.
Can I say something? Oh, Mr. Jaramillo.
Yes.
And I know that your school probably is one of the safest schools, you know, for lockdown and everything else. And I know that you'll bring what you see in other schools, because that's very, very important. Because I don't want to see the elementaries left out at all.
Yeah.
And some of those elementaries are old schools, you know? And it's just important to me that you bring out those things that you see that they don't have, that you have, to make it better for them.
And I get that a lot, that they look to Los Alamitos for our safety and our safety plan. It's been in place prior to me being there, so it was just built really well, and the safety was taken into consideration when building that school. So hopefully, when we build these new schools, that is at the forefront as well. But I'm one to share everything and anything I have to make sure all of our kids are safe. My son goes to an elementary school. My wife teaches at an elementary school. I have family members at almost every elementary school, so I have interest everywhere, and whatever I can do to share our safety and how we do things with other principals and leaders, I'm willing to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson.
Just a comment there, as a part of our expansion with the guards too, is to make sure that we have a rover, at least a rover, for the elementary schools. We're also talking to the city, formerly Chief Modis, to be at the school sites, at all the school sites at the key times in the mornings and at the X times, and also show a presence. I know that at Los Alamitos, Grants PD will periodically go through there during the day and just do a walkthrough. We're asking them to do that at the elementary schools too.
As a district safety team, we're also holding meetings with law enforcement. Our last visit at Mount Taylor, we had state police there. And it was awesome. They went throughout the school with us. They checked on fences and gates, and they've been really helpful. And we're working with all law enforcement. They seem to be all involved. They want to work with us and make our schools safe. So we are working at the elementary levels also.
Alice training and certification. Lately, the safety and security team found it useful, or we thought our staff would really benefit from them doing the Alice training. The Alice training was what do you call this, assigned to every staff. It's a 40-minute actually training online that the staff can watch. Staff gets a certificate after it's been watched by them, and along with watching it are a few questions that they have to answer as well. But during the what do you call this, when school started, the PD day of the district, the principals were asked to go over the same video with their staff and discuss the video as it relates to their school site. So while watching the video, they're asked to pause and reflect reflect on how the video relates to their safety as a school, and that's what they did. And an in-person follow-up training will be conducted on September 19th, and Alice trainer will come to the district and visit every school site and follow up on the training that they've just gone through with the video that was assigned to them. And then additional training throughout the year in conjunction with PALMS and associates will also be implemented by the district.
I'll do this one too. Anybody, you're familiar with RAVE?
Oh, and in addition to the Alice training, the district will also be implementing the RAVE panic button. So the RAVE panic button is actually a free app that the state of New Mexico made available to districts. It's a mobile app that is available to all staff for quick response. So it's an app that was pushed by the technology department to district devices, mobile devices, and an app that teachers can download from their mobile devices, app stores, and they can click on that app, and when there's emergency anywhere in their campus, and everyone that's connected to the app or connected to the campus's emergency list will be notified of whatever the emergency is. So how the app works is each school site is mapped accordingly, and if the app is pressed within the bounds of the mapped area of the school site, everyone in that mapped area will be notified of the emergency. So other things that the app actually does, it expedites urgent internal communications. It contacts local emergency responders immediately while the app is pressed. It simultaneously notifies everyone in the contact list that's included in the app, and then at the same time, it also contacts responders, first responders, alerts 911 and staff on specific emergency situations, and then added features include real-time collaboration and on-screen reporting.
Hello, everybody. As you all know, security is on the forefront of everybody's mind right now for obvious reasons. So one of the opportunities that we're looking at taking advantage of is called Parents on Patrol. I'm sure you guys have all heard about it in other school districts that it's being applied to. Basically what it entails is getting volunteers from our parents, from our community, to offer their time to patrol our schools. Okay, for us to, just kind of go around the school, make sure doors are locked, make sure gates are secured when they're supposed to be secured, that kind of stuff. Right now, this program is in its infancy here. We're still, doing a lot of talking about what it's going to entail. But volunteers that do apply for this position will have to go through the same rigors as any employee, background checks, all that kind of stuff. But once we do find our group of volunteers, they will go through, like Delton said, there's going to be training involved for either online videos or in-person training for them so that they understand what their roles are. Obviously we want them to just be our eyes and ears at the school when we can't be there. So, observe and report. We're not going to ask them to interact in any kind of activity as far as, they're not there to break up fights or to handle disciplinary situations or whatever. It's strictly to see anything out of the ordinary that triggers something. And then let somebody know, let the administrator of the school know, hey, this is what it looks like is happening, and just report it. So it's just another opportunity for us that I think we should take advantage of. We have a lot of parents out there right now who are thinking on the same line as us, and I'm pretty sure they would like to be part of this program. So again, it's just in the infancy stages. So as we move forward, you guys will obviously hear more about what the plan is going forward and what we plan on doing with it. Okay, thank you.
And then finally, other things, just update vestibules are being completed. Most of them that we proposed are installed, and we're doing some polishing up and tweaking. I don't know if there's any full installations. I know we got some new ideas for different schools that we'll be working on another set of vestibules coming up in the future. Blue buttons are being installed at every office. Those are the panic buttons at the office where the school secretary or the person in the front desk can press the button and it'll alarm the rest of the folks in the building. We're looking to acquire additional funding for, as you know, we got that security funding a couple of years ago from the state. We're searching for another round of that for more perimeter fencing, gates, we need additional cameras and additional access points at all of the schools. We just have the first layer. I think we only have very few access control points at every school site. We would love to have many access control points at all of the school sites. So still working on that. So with that, I hope the board gives you a gist of what our district safety and security team is up to. Be glad to answer any questions.
Questions?
Mr. President,
Yes.
something that I might have just a tad of information about.
Sure.
Emergency first aid at some of these outlying schools. Are we addressing any of that with regards to personnel there, the guards, what have you? Because in some places, the EMS may be 15, 20 minutes away, and that's a critical time for someone who's injured, especially if an event has happened at any of these outlying schools. I hate to say it, Cubero said we have the Blue Water in Centerville even. And we have agencies that are in place, but they're still minutes away. I'm hoping that these can also be integrated with regards to the safety and security for our schools as we move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Mr. President, one of our members is Sonia Hernandez, and well, she's on the COVID team, but she's doing some training on that side on what is it, CPR. And there's another training that I'm sure you're more aware of than we are, but it's like the FAST training. That's a new and upcoming tourniquet training for, and we talked about in our team to have that at least 2 people trained at every school site. Yeah. Unfortunately, we have to think about those kind of situations. But we don't have all the answers. Like you would say, we're still looking at like getting SRO at Laguna. We still have issues at making sure Cebolleta can be responded to quickly. We're fortunate on this side because Milan Police Department and emergency has been very responsive to our needs, and they've had a lot of presence at the schools, especially Milan Elementary. But they've told us that they'll go out to those schools as needed. Sheriff's Department as well. But a good point. Our outlying schools are gonna right now. It's gonna be a lot longer response time than our internal schools.
It's just something to think about.
Yeah, thank you.
Board members?
On the levels for them to carry a firearm, would that be a level 3?
Yes,
Or would it
it's a level 3.
level 3?
And we hired a person just recently. I think you know who he is. Jeff Modis will be one of our level 3.
And that's my next question.
He's level 3, and then Mr. Hawker is security here. He just finished last week his level 3 training.
So will they be able to carry armed weapons?
They're both certified to carry armed weapons. Of course, we need the policies and approvals in place, but they're ready as far as certification.
I'm sorry. And you know, I've had conversation with you and again, I'm gonna bring up the elementaries because sometimes it seems like the elementaries stay left out, you know, compared to the high schools, and nothing against the high schools in Laguna. But I wanna make sure that everybody is protected, and down the road, I'd like to see a level 3 person that can carry that armed weapon, you know, because that's gonna be very important. You just don't know what's gonna happen anymore. It's crazy out there.
Thank you, Mr. Ortiz. Mr. President, I think we're all wanting to get more coverage as much as we possibly can. We're at the starting point. If we can accomplish getting our 3 now and then move and spread out some more. So ideally, we'd have an armed person at every school site, and I think that's unless the board thinks otherwise, I think that's the direction that we're probably pushing for.
I think the state needs to step up and probably help our schools, you know, and get some of these things done, get the funding in there and make sure that all these things happen in all our schools. And that's gonna be for everybody in our states.
The last statement there on the screen, for funding. So the board is, Board Member Hayes, is the one that can decide that. So I'd like to see a plan that outlines what our current budget can do with respect to increasing security in these areas. And we may need to modify the budget in order to do that. So you need to look at that. We can get more fencing. I don't want to wait till 2 years from now in state legislature. So we need to have a discussion with respect to what our fiscal capacity is for doing those things.
Mr. President, just to add another factor here. So say the funding for this, there is funding available at the state, I hear, for specifically for security purposes. I've asked Ramon Montano, who's knows about this funding, so I haven't got a chance to talk to him other than the funding is there. So he's looking into seeing if, how much and whether it's basically a grant type of setup. So there are several grants that I believe that we need to go after. And I think, you know, adjusting our budget might be the second option, but I would suggest that we go after these funds, these grant funds, and report that back to you.
Yeah, at the next board meeting, see what it is that we can do in the short term. We need to analyze the budget right now to determine where our flexibility exists when it comes to addressing some of these and put them in some priority order in terms of feasibility. The idea that you were mentioning about addressing the emergency medical needs without waiting, that's really critical. We got San Rafael's about, what, 15 minutes away from Milan?
It's 15 minutes away from here, Mr. President, and Blue Water is 30 and
Yeah.
Cabarrus is 30. And they have entities that help in those areas, but they are still X amount of minutes away. And I hate to say it for something that we would need some on-site training, and emergency first aid is a simple thing. Is, you know, for ABCs, airway, breathing, and circulation, to make sure those threes are in place during the event, and you can sustain that person until emergency personnel arrive.
Regrettably, that is something that our staff will have to know. So we can have have an assessment as to what we can do with respect to on-site emergency medical support that's within our capacity also.
All right, that's definitely another area that we want to improve. I do believe in, maybe Mr. Miller's here, but we do have at least a health assistant at every school site, and I hope that they are all, I'll find out, emergency.
What their
first
training
aid
level
trained,
is,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I remember my school nurses in the past, I don't know whether they could handle some of that stuff. Because that's really trauma beyond that they ever would even imagine to do. And they're used to Band-Aids and taking temperatures and things of that sort. But this could go beyond that. And so that's the challenge for the state unto itself, like what Board Member Ortiz has said, is that what can the state do? They need to step up to the plate. Because our funds are meant to educate the kids and to build facilities. But our state legislature needs to recognize that in this day and age, our role is expanded, and the parents expect that we will do our best, and so they should also expect that the state legislature and the state government be able to be supportive of us fiscally now, not later. That's what's going to reassure the public, that everybody is going to contribute. But thank you, staff members, football players, that's right, to come. Did good, and we appreciate all the organized efforts on the part of our staff to stay on top of this. And we feel that very strongly. Our parents are very concerned about this. And we as a board want to support you in very concrete ways quickly. And I like the idea about the parents, because parents have eagle eyes. They can see things that we don't really pay attention to. That's excellent.
Another school tomorrow, right? Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Our presentations are concluded. We are now going to go into executive session. Hold on a minute. There are 3 parts to this. And I'm trying to make sure okay. we have, board members, we have A, B, and C, discussion of pending and litigation. As read, KM versus GCCSD. If you could contact the parties who are gonna get online. Regarding the pending lawsuit filed against the school district, we also have discussion with district attorney regarding the release of impact aid funds and pending for litigation pursuant to section 1015-H7 of the Open Meeting Act. And it's, as it's so stated there, we will be having discussion with the superintendent also on his evaluation in part C. And the evaluation of the superintendent, this is a regular informal preview of what it is we're going to do with respect to his evaluation. And I entertain a motion for us to go into executive session for those stated purposes.
I'll move to go into executive session.
Motion was made by Ron Ortiz to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. President.
Second by Board Member Hayes to go into executive session. Roll call.
Tony Daly,
Yes.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes. Motion carries. We're going to go into executive session, and that means we will go into another room.
Leave your room down there.
Okay. And we'll return.
Only just 2
Don't
minutes.
forget to send me the link.
I have to adjust the links.
Thank you.
I did send her the links earlier, but I think
Okay.
we're gonna have to
Take this one.
change the
You
time.
have to take your whole binder.
Oh, just take a whole binder.
Yeah, you'll need the whole binder.
Yes, ma'am.
We have to adjust the time.
I don't need this. It's in here.
Okay.
Put it on the GCCS email.
Board is coming out of open closed session at 8:37. Is there a motion to reconvene the open meeting session?
So moved.
So moved by Board Member Hayes. Is there a second?
Second.
To reconvene the open session. As a matter of record, to inform you that the executive session and the discussions in that session consisted of only the items that we had identified in the agenda regarding personnel matters, impact aid, and superintendent evaluation. Roll call.
Emily Daily,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes. Motion carries. Action items. Board members, the next action item is consideration of approval for reorganization of the school board. We need to determine what is our pleasure in doing so. Your choice is either to do a full reorganization or reorganization for the vacant position of secretary. Is there a direction?
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. President, I'd like to make the motion to keep the school board as is, with the exception of recommending or nominating Mr. Hayes for the secretary's position. I always felt like the secretary's position was a good learning point. There's a lot of stuff that I learned when I was a secretary, and just having that working knowledge of how the position works could give him valuable experience.
Is there a second? We need a second. We don't need a second. No. Are there any other motions? Any other nominations besides Mr. Hayes? Seeing none, call for the vote. Roll call. This is to consider retaining the officers, with the exception of the secretary, and that Mr. Hayes is being nominated for the position of secretary of the school board. Roll call.
Emily Daily,
Yes.
Robert Hayes,
I'll abstain.
Ron Ortiz,
I'll vote yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations.
I hope.
It's too late. Your wife was here the last
It's too
time.
late.
She's with you all the way. I think we can do this. We've done this for several times, so we must recognize that reorganization always is healthy, and that we will continue with the change that we made and proceed with the officers of being I as the president of the board, Emily Hunt Daly is the vice president, and board member Hayes is the secretary of the Grants Boulder County School District.
Thank you, board. I'll do my best.
Let's continue on. The next item is consideration of approval to authorize negotiations and acceptance of settlement appeal to court. Consideration of approval to authorize continued negotiations and acceptance of settlement of appeal to federal court on FY 2020 impact aid determination by the U.S. Department of Education's Impact Aid Office to release impact aid funds to the school district as presented. Is there a recommendation by Mr. Perez?
I recommend you approve the action item.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve by Ron Ortiz. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hayes to authorize continued negotiations and acceptance of settlement of appeal to the federal court in FY 2020 impact aid determination by the U.S. Department of Education Impact Aid Office to release impact aid funds to the school district as presented. Roll call.
Emily Daily,
Yes.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes, motion carries.
President?
Mr. Pettis.
Yeah, next action item, consideration approval to authorize purchase and addition of 5 new fleet vehicles. I recommend that we approve this action item as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved. I'm sorry. I second.
Seconded, motion made by Board Member Hayes, seconded by Vice President Emily Daly to authorize the purchase of an addition of 5 new fleet vehicles as presented. Is there any discussion?
Is this coming out of any capital outlay money or how are we paying for this?
This is paid from the wind farm money, the money that we get from the Red Mesa payment in lieu of taxes. And so that money is used at whatever discretionary use the board wants to use it for.
Mr. President, buying them now, when will we see them, Mr. Pettis? In 10 months, a year?
Oh, good question. So it's been a problem that, so Mr. Maldonado and I had a good discussion about that on which vendor to utilize just based on that.
Correct.
So we've told Corley Ford that they have until December to deliver these vehicles, otherwise we reserve the right to cancel the PO and go with a different vendor who has a faster turnaround and delivery date.
So like about 100 days? Do you think they'll be able to do it? Honestly,
You know, when they deliver, if they deliver the Bronco at the end of September as promised, I'll have more
faith in
faith.
them?
Yeah,
Okay.
but the other vendor had a delivery date of end of September for 2 of the vehicles and the end of November for the other 3. So all things considered, because this vendor is giving us 2023 vehicles versus 2022, we decided it was prudent to wait for the newer vehicles.
I like the fact that we're trying to buy in town. I agree with that too. See what they do.
To the extent possible.
To the extent possible and prudent.
Please let us know beforehand, in the event that things change.
I will do that, yes.
Before making a final decision. Thank you. Roll call.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes. Motion carries. Mr. Pettis.
There consideration of approval to purchase an installation of intercom safety alert system at Mount Taylor Elementary. I recommend that we approve this action item as presented.
A motion? Motion?
Absolutely, yes. Ms. Daly, yes.
I infer from me you're making the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Emily
moved.
Daly made the motion and seconded by
I'll second.
Ron Ortiz to purchase and install intercom safety alert system at Mount Taylor Elementary. Any discussion? Timeline?
As soon as possible. There's a little bit of holdup because I believe someone was under the impression that we're gonna wait till the new school was built, but that's a long ways away. We need the intercom system right now for safety reasons.
Need them now.
We anticipate that the equipment will be available within about 90 days.
All right, thank you. No further discussion? Roll call?
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes, motion carries. Mr. Pettis.
So consideration of approval to purchasing of classroom furniture for Laguna Acoma Junior Senior High School. I recommend that we approve this action item as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Vice President Emily Daly, seconded by
I'll second.
Ron Ortiz to approve purchase of classroom furniture for Laguna Acoma Junior Senior High School as presented. Any discussion? Again, timeline.
It's just time to get them some new furniture.
10 weeks.
10 weeks.
10 weeks. And
10
how many
weeks.
classrooms do we have?
So we're looking at 25 classrooms each with a desk and a chair 15 sets per classroom. And then the science rooms will have tables as they requested. They're replacing integrated desks and chairs that the students can't fit in. So these will be just separate chairs, separate desks.
Just before, just after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, or sooner, but 10 weeks is what they gave us.
No
Mr.
further
President?
discussion? Yes.
Mr. President, I'd like to
Yes.
also add that, get that PA system working, Mr. Perez. With any leftover money, get it working.
Are we working on that?
Ms. Hunt Daly, that project is ongoing. It's in process right now. You're talking about the fire alarm, the new fire alarm.
Well,
alert
that's
system.
another topic. We can bring this up at another time. Let us
Sorry.
continue on. Did we do a roll call on this one?
No, sir.
Okay, roll call, please.
No.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes,
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes. Motion carries. Mr. Pettis.
Consideration and approval to transfer portable classroom to St. Teresa School. I recommend that we approve this action item as presented.
Before we do that, what does transfer mean legally?
We're transferring the deed and the ownership of that portable that's currently on the St. Teresa site.
Then let's make sure we're clear on that. Transfer of deed.
If you look at the motion, they requested to approve the transfer of title and all ownership
What
of
does
the
it say there?
district-owned portable building at the bottom of that, the
the first-
summary page.
That's
Whole
gonna be
letter
in
at
your
the bottom,
packet.
right at the top.
Would you like me to read it to you?
No, it doesn't read that way in the motion. So. Mr. Hayes, you want to create that motion for us?
Reconsideration, consider approval of transfer of title of the portable classroom to St. Teresa School from GCCS.
Is there, and you made the motion,
Yes.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Emily Hunt Daly,
yes,
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes, motion carries. Ms. Pettis.
Consideration of approval to purchase new cleaning equipment and associated materials for all schools in the district. I recommend that we approve this agenda item.
Is there a motion?
so move,
So moved by Emily, Vice President Hunt Daly.
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Hayes to purchase new cleaning equipment and associated materials for all schools in the district. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Emily Hunt Daly,
yes,
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz, Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes, motion carries.
President, I do recommend that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
are you,
We're at the consent agenda section. And before we do that, we have an H Budget and Finance Report, July 2022. Is that the first, is that what the executive summary report is?
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing where that is on the agenda. I see the Budget and Finance Report, August 2022. Those are the two reports that we provide to you on AP and also payroll.
Is that this?
Yeah.
That's correct.
That's what I'm referring to, okay? Hold on a second. So, Mr. Hayes, this is the report.
Yes.
It's referring to.
I've seen that, sir.
All right, thanks. I'm holding just a second. What we have in the board packet are transfers, increases, decreases, increases. My expectation is that all of this is contained within there. I guess my concern is that there has to be a bit more descriptiveness to that, so I know which one we're referring to. So when we do this again, I'd like to have us figure out, as you look at the headings of the bill, of the bars, that we be able to identify them in some way so that we can reference them. You do have the document ID numbers at the top. And yeah, I see them. That's what I'm saying, is that we have the bar numbers here. I'm trying to figure out what else we could say here, just a little quick statement, okay? We'll talk about that later. Board members, you have in your board packet the bars. And you should have had a chance to take a look at them. And I did not look at them as completely as I wanted to. I was looking for the titles. But they are complete right now, so I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll move to approve the agenda. I mean,
The
the
consent agenda
consent agenda
as presented.
is presented.
Is there a second?
So moved.
So moved by Board Member Hayes. Approval of the consent agenda as presented. Roll call.
Emily Hunt Daly.
Yes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Shambo.
Yes, motion carries. Mr. Pettit.
Okay, report on the consultation meetings with Laguna and Yakima Pueblos. Just let the board know that met with Yakima, our team met with Yakima Governor, Council, Yakima Department of Ed. Mr. Valdo, who was the interim director of Yakima Department of Ed, expressed four major concerns to us. We took note of it. We had the opportunity to go back and meet with First Lieutenant Felipe and the team there, which was the Yakima Department of Ed representatives. And we were able to provide them with all the information that they needed and responded to the concerns at the time. Following day, met with the New Mexico Public Education Department, with Laguna Governor, Laguna Council Attorney, Laguna Director of Learning, and all of our executive team, and had some discussion about a parent complaint. So we, after further discussion, I made it clear that I was concerned that I didn't understand why a parent complaint went to that level. Secretary of Ed was present. Interim Assistant Secretary was present. There were several high-level PED people present, and I questioned them. They brought forth a lot of, several concerns that were, from my perspective, misinformed ideas that were, and I don't know what parent it came from or how many parents. I believe it stemmed from the government-to-government meeting in July. Came to the meeting without any kind of information on what the topic was gonna be about, even after a couple of requests to get information, to get an agenda, to get some kind of information so we could be prepared for the meeting. We were unsuccessful in getting that, so we were there at the Zoom meeting to do what they had to say, and they opened up with a series of complaints. And so I do have a letter drafted that I'll be sending back to them and expressing my dissatisfaction with the approach. That's all I have for you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay,
When we get down here.
announcements. Couple days, September 19th, parent-teacher conferences, regular school board meeting, PD, no students on 31st. And that's it.
Board work session suggestion is September 14th. Everybody's okay with that? We can start to set that up.
Well, give it a shot. You know, Lorraine, it's me. We have to figure out whether we can get it together.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. So moved by board member Hayes.
Second.
I was gonna just keep on going. Seconded
Second.
by Emily Hunt Daly to adjourn the meeting. Roll call.
Emily Hunt Daly.
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Dr. Byron Shambo.
Yes. At, the motion carries at what time?
8:56.
8:56. That's short, meeting. Thank you. Sure. Appreciate you all for being in attendance.